morning, Tartaria Australia and Autodidactic. Live in the house today, we have the amazing JCK, one of our dear friends for Australia, Tartaria Australia, and Dale Holmes. Dale, so many people have contacted us about getting you on the show, and specifically on the topic of what's going on with these floods and this water and how it relates to our past and our future. And so we just gathered everyone together today to just start chatting about what is going on in Australia. So welcome, everyone. How's everyone?
Good, I'm good.
Good.
Where is everyone? So I'm in the Northern Rivers right now. Campbell's in Perth. JC, where are you?
Sydney, Blue Mountains. It's finally stopped raining, and it'll probably start again on Saturday.
Yep. And Dale, where are you?
Oh, I just keep driving up and down the country. I'm back in Bendigo at the moment. I actually left Northern Rivers. It was 2 days into the rain. I checked the forecast, and my brother's like, "We're getting 200 mils tomorrow." I'm like, "I'm out of here."
Yeah.
But I keep doing that because I always leave. Like I left here when the earthquake was about to happen. I always just get out. I just get a feeling and I leave. So
yeah. Well, what's your feeling? Where is your feeling right today? 10th of March.
I feel really good at the moment. Actually, I mean, I've had a pretty wild month, and all sorts of crazy stuff happen. I've been people following me and getting lots of different attacks on different levels, but at the moment I'm feeling really good. To me, they're like little initiations and overcoming fear barriers. And I guess we can talk about the floods and stuff, but I'm seeing it like everything on multi-levels, multifaceted.
Yeah.
There's good and bad to both of it. I'm seeing it as a cleansing.
Yeah.
I spoke before about like the rains coming from the north and running through the energetic lines, how that cleanses, although it's, it is catastrophic. It is, it's because that whole thing, like if you want me to talk about Agenda 21 later, it's about them creating their Phoenix Rising, but we can counter that, and we will, through creating our own Phoenix Rising. We can create the initiation for the good, because they're trying to collapse the system to bring in this smart grid. And, it's been the most obvious, weather warfare I've ever seen. Like they've made it very blatant.
Oh, man.
Which is, it's horrible. My brother lives up there, and it's devastating, but it's another layer of the programming breaking down, because I've been talking about weather warfare for a long time, and they've just made it so obvious. But it's, again, we're seeing the resilience. That's actually a smart, that's Agenda 21 word, but the old resilience. But we are, we're seeing that. We're seeing the beautiful things of community coming together. And I guess I can chat about Agenda 21 later, but I'll let you guys go on.
Well, I mean, Dale, you're so right. Like, watching what's going on. So I'm just at the foot, I'm just above Tenterfield at the moment. So like the whole Northern Rivers is at my sort of like down the mountain, and obviously my whole community's there. So we've been following it a lot. We've had a lot of refugees up staying at the farm because it's so dry and safe. But all the reports are just coming back at the absence of all the support, the blocking of funding going there. The internet's gone like permanently down. It stinks. There's no SES, no army, no police, blah, blah, blah. But what's amazing is that millions more people have seen the stark contrast between how they focused on COVID with all their resources and now how they've just blatantly left this floating in the air, because it's become so obvious that there's an agenda at foot.
And the other thing is, if they've ever seen the contempt for the population from the government of what they've done with Mullumbimby, particularly that area, because, we know they're very, they're a pretty tight-knit community, and a lot of them are very cluey to the agenda. For them to go in and roll out those towers in there, that is absolute contempt for the people. And
you've heard that they've just, that the people won that fight, but this week they've started to build the 5G tower.
That's what I mean. But, again, it's so obvious. It's disgusting, but go and just rip that freaking thing down there. But whatever. We'll see.
Well, what are your thoughts, JC and Campbell? And then we'll just deep dive. What's your overview?
Yeah. Well, I had the same, I couldn't have put it better myself, Dale. I was just thinking about this morning when I was putting my makeup on about how everything is multi-dimensional. We have to look at everything with many layers to this, and with everything, with the dark and light in this world of duality, the light will always shine on the dark and it will always be exposed. So they are exposing themselves. They can't help it. They can't help but expose their hand. I was here in the Blue Mountains in 2019 when they tried to terraform the whole land and use, climate control and directed energy weapons to just destroy just a whole entire state full, the land was just burned to a crisp all through where they wanted to put a high-speed rail system. It's so obvious what they did with the weather and how there was unusual dryness, and then they would get scientists in to say, oh, we didn't clear the land, the dry timber and stuff like that, this is why it happened. And but it's very obvious what they're trying to do. I also want to talk about what I believe, and this relates to the show that you and I did, Kelly and Campbell, about the crystal cities underneath. And Mullumbimby is one of the centres of where I saw the crystal cities underneath. So we are talking about different layers and levels and dimensions. When they are working, they are trying to block the good energy from underneath, from these crystal cities and these grids. But there will always be good that comes out of the bad, and it comes from community. We have to keep going back to basics. It's just drilling at home over and over again every time there's a disaster. I want to also say that this flood up in the Northern Rivers is Australia's equivalent of Hurricane Katrina. It's exactly what they're doing. What they did to the people in Louisiana, in New Orleans, it's exactly what they're doing. They are ignoring the people on purpose to obliterate a whole area and to further demonize like lower socioeconomic population. That's what they're doing, and they're doing it for a reason. And they're always going to do it for many levels: 3D, 4D, 5D, whatever. They're going to operate on those levels.
All right.
2D.
I thought the same thing when it was coming in. I'm going, this is Katrina.
Yep.
Because the weather comes in and it breaks off, and it just sat there.
Yeah.
And they even like, do you remember Hurricane Sandy that went up the East Coast? It was the same thing, and then what's the name described it as a bomb, and I'm like, they're using warfare terms. They're telling me
the rain bomb. Yep,
Yeah.
that's all the headlines down here. The rain bomb, and flooding's the new normal.
Yeah. So they got their climate change agenda, and they're just trying to peddle that. So you talk to any people who aren't aware of, cloud seeding and things like that, and they're just going to go, oh, it's just climate change. But it's, and there's always going to be that flip side. This is the other thing. I spoke about this yesterday in my video, is that there's always going to be these two sides. The other side's never going to see what our truth is and what we can see. But the main thing about the Hurricane Katrina aspect was that the people are being neglected, which is exactly what George Bush did, and their government did, to the people in New Orleans.
Yeah. Fuck. All right, go Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's a big wake up call, obviously, because what it's showing is we can't rely, and we shouldn't, on the system. Like this is the whole deal, right? As soon as they put in these fake bloody pandemics and stuff, there's cops everywhere. They bring an army on the streets in the cities. They've got all this money pumping into it, and then an actual disaster happens and they're gone. You can't see them. There's one video of the army unloading a trailer when they probably should be loading it. Obviously the unjabbed aren't allowed to volunteer, right? So to me, this means everyone should just reject the SES, should reject all of that, and should just go and do it themselves. Because this is what we saw at Canberra, right? People turned up, and like within a few days, there was a fully functioning community, had everything it needed, had nothing at all to do with the system or the government. It was people, they got in, and literally a couple of days, like everything was there, everything was taken care of. No one needed to ask or designate all these, but people just got in and did it. And it works. And that's what we do as people, as humans. We can do that. We can create things quickly. When we rely on the system, I mean, this is proof positive, right? That it's just there to destroy us. That this is, it's a war. It's an attack on us.
Well, look, now that we've covered the surface level of the floods, let's go as deep as we fucking can, people. All right, here, you want to start with octopuses? Let's start with octopuses. Who has an octopus story?
Octopussy.
Actually, Joe, one you might not know, JC. I was because I kept seeing that, and I know you know about the interdimensional layers, as above, so below. So there's those entities exist on every level. They have to. That's
they have to.
That's part of the.
That's why it's a
holographic structure of the universe. So everything's compressed into the level. So like I see them, they're attacking people, but then it's really an attack on the Earth Mother and even the galactic core. So I see them at every level. But then I was looking at. So I'm in Bendigo, and there's we're a big gold mining area, and I've been able to find some of the ley lines around this area and like where they're running that. But then there's a new gold excavation company that came in from Canada, and it's called Leviathan, which is this octopus tentacle. And I was like, that was the final straw for me. I'm like, I'm getting the fuck out of this town now. And it was just like that mad synchronicity. But yeah, to me, it was they're like these lower astral things that are just running wild at the moment, but they're AI. Yeah. To me, they're AI.
Yeah.
And, it's because to me, I've said like the satanic force can't exist here anymore. That force is being rid, and they're sort of so that's why the whole AI is creeping in, the vaccine. All that is because
that's right.
The synthetic is allowed to come in. It's allowed to create an overlay but that satanic force can't be here. So they're running wild to try and form a synthetic overlay. But that's what I'm seeing them as, and they're attaching onto people that are waking up or that are of higher consciousness to trap them at that level.
Higher consciousness.
Is that, if that's not crazy, but that's sort of how I was saying it.
I concur.
No, that's true. So that it is multi-layered. I know Kelly's got a story as well, but I wanted to talk about how, so I've always known about this octopus for quite some years. I've seen it over towns. When I was driving through to Snowy Mountains, and on my way there, I went through Canberra, and I didn't even realise I was in Canberra. The whole sort of shit happened with my GPS. You have no idea what happened. Oh man, my GPS went haywire, took me off the main road. I went down this country town, not just by myself with my daughter. I was like, oh, that's a nice Airbnb. And then in my head, I heard, this is where they traffic children. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, what? Where would that thought come from? And then the GPS took me to this abandoned railway line. And I was like, this is where they bring the children and they take them to the train tracks down to Canberra. And I was like, where are these thoughts coming from? And I just had all these ideas. Anyway, I told my friend who used to live in Canberra, whose son ended up being an SRA victim, who got taken off her, and she knew all about. When I told her the town's name, she said, "That's a satanic town, 100%. I know it," and blah blah blah. So anyway, as I was walking through, so this is just telling you how satanic Canberra is. As I'm driving through, I didn't even realise I was at Canberra. I just see Lake George because I'd never driven this way. And I was like, what the fuck is that, right? And all of a sudden, as I'm getting up to Canberra, I feel this oppressive grid thing. I just felt it, this energy of this grid. And I could feel this octopus, but I also saw in my head this reptilian head. I don't know how to explain it, but I knew it and I felt it, and I felt it underground, and I felt it above my head, and I felt sick. And as soon as I got out of there, as soon as I got out of that area, I was fine. I just felt this like a grid. So that tells you that there is certain things and energies, and this is why they're trying to push us into these city centres, these smart sort of city centres. I feel it. A lot of sensitive people feel it. I live in the Blue Mountains, and even though we're still, it's quite populated here, but you've got areas where there is peace and that kind of feeling. So my friend 3 weeks ago, I was working with a shaman overseas, and his wife got attacked suddenly. And it's a long story, but he was clearing a demon. It's a long story, okay? And it came through AI. It came through the internet, okay? And she didn't know. She opened an email and it came through that way, the attack. A long story with that, because the person that they thought sent the email didn't send the email. So the shaman thought he was working with a client. to help her. We found out the woman didn't even send the email. It was demonic. The email came through like an AI thing and it attacked the wife. So anyway, my friend and I, and we were all going to send healing to this woman. And my friend got hit and got really sick, like really, really sick. Lungs were burning, exactly what you would describe as COVID. And anyway, I went in to heal her and help her, and I wanted to tap in and see what was going on. And what I saw was this, I saw this black octopus, not just over her town. She's in Victoria, putting through this very oppressive energy. But I then saw like a huge overlay of the world. And it was like I was rising above into just blackness, and I could see the world. And I could see all these little octopuses over different towns. And then also this major big motherfucker, like a big mothership octopus. And it had this huge black tentacles. And I saw these points of light across the world. So every time someone was, like a light worker was shining their light or trying to raise their frequency, this octopus was like and whipping them and hitting them. And it was like a barb at the end. And so the message I got, or the feeling I got, was that this was like, it was like an electronic, robotic, almost AI type octopus, but it was hitting anyone who was slightly weakened, and it would hit them in a weak spot. So if they were a light worker and their energy is quite bright, usually this octopus could see them if they had not been protected, and it would go into a weak spot either in the body. So like if you're a smoker, for example, it will go into your lungs, or if you have a trauma or something somewhere in your body, it will hit that spot and it will hook in. So that's on an energetic level. And then you've got the 3D level would be real parasites. So like if you've got a lot of parasites and you're not detoxing and doing regular things, that's also an energetic way. And then you've got people as well with their own things that work through them, the AI, the Watiko, whatever you want to call it, it works through them, and that can affect us as well in a parasitic way. So yeah, there's lots of, anyway, and I did see that when I looked at my friend just really quickly, it was wrapping tentacles around her lungs and also in her head. And we had to remove it. And there was all these angelics that came in, and spirit guides that came in and helped. So yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy war.
I'm seeing them latching onto, like the one that went onto me, and then it had multiple cords to other people around me to hurt everyone else connected to me.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like I felt disgusting. It's like I've done it to them, because that's what it does too. That's what I was seeing.
Yeah, it was doing it to her whole household, by the way. Yeah,
it goes after everyone else, and I'm like, fuck.
It works through the electronics as well, I noticed. So it was something to do with the 5G or 4G, the Wi-Fi stuff. So it works through that. There's something, I don't know. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, do you have an octopus story, Campbell?
Yeah, I think
You got an octopus story, buddy? Do you have an octopus story? I've got one.
Well, I've just moved. I've had no energy. Like, I don't get like attacked. Well, not anymore anyway. I just get my energy sapped. Like I wake up I lost 3 hours yesterday. I woke up at 7 and I was feeling, oh yeah, I'm really, really good. And then literally half an hour later, I sat down and it was like 10:30 and I hadn't done anything. Like there was nothing in the time to fill it out. And I was just like freaking out going, what? And I was so tired. I was suddenly like, oh my God, I need to go to sleep again. But I've just moved, and electronics, oh my God, like these bloody, all this privacy stuff, all this stuff you've got to go through to get into your own accounts, all this password crap. That's a big scam. That's them getting into our information, because my phone got shut off. They decided to turn my phone off on the weekend, and then I had no internet. So I'm trying to start up a laptop. Couldn't get into anything because everything has to be verified through your phone. I couldn't get onto anywhere. Couldn't even get into my Gmail unless I could get this stuff. So it just shows you this octopus. That's it, right? That's literally it. It's all the tentacles going out between all the different stuff we have online, all the social media. It's getting in there, and always under the guise of, oh, we're doing it to help you. Oh yeah, well, it's for your protection and your privacy, but no one wants it. No one wants this stuff. You put a password in it and it says, no, I'm sorry, I don't like that password. You're going to have to change it. So, what the
it's all designed to fuck with our heads, man. Like, you know, they talk about the dark web. Yeah, like that's the truth behind the internet. It's this energetic. My little octopus story started in 2017 because I had a best friend who had bipolar, and she was my bestest friend ever. I spent 4 years with her. We had always beautiful time. I loved her. And this last time she went manic, and then she started tuning into the Galactic Federation with Asta, and started doing this number sequence 10010 over and over again in this sort of like ritualistic way. And then she said to me, I've just been and met the mother, Kelly, the mother. She said it's a giant black octopus, and it's the biggest arch nemesis of the entire realm. And this octopus is the mothership. It's an octopus. And I've just been there, and, you know, I spoke to her, and now we're friends. And after that, she went into, and has to this day, 4 or 5 years later, this psychotic hatred of wanting to kill me. And it was like this energy went through, and she opened up. The reason I'm telling that story is because I noted the octopus of her, because they're quite shamanic. They're often another frequency band. So when I got to my farm this time to do the renos I'm working on, I did a clearing with a friend of mine, a beautiful wizard. And immediately as he started talking, I went immediately to this black octopus. So this is about a week ago. And it was across the whole realm. Like it literally was as big as our night sky, you know, that the night sky. Yeah. And it went over the whole realm. And at first it was like, it wasn't in organic, it wasn't in details, just like, it felt like black goo smoke, but in the shape of an octopus. And so immediately, and I didn't try to do this, it's just what actually happened. I immediately went and started changing its color. And as I changed its color, it went from red to blues and eventually ended up in this pinky color. And as it started to get pink, it started to get smaller, and it started to move into more organic detail and shape, right to this moment where it became this tiny, absolutely beautiful, beautiful looking, perfect pink octopus. Immediately when I saw that, there was the member of I'm just telling you what happened. The member of Federation, the Galactic Federation of Light, was immediately there with a glass jar, took the octopus off me, put it in this glass jar in this like iridescent bluey crystal stuff, carried it very carefully to this glass room, crystal glass room, and put it on a shelf. And there was all these jars full of these tiny, beautiful, different colored octopuses. And at that moment, the representative turned to me and said, "Thank you so much. We've been waiting for you to do this." And like immediately, it was like a big celebration. So like, that's what happened to me as I tuned in to clear this space. But what became obvious to me is this octopus symbology and our workers, light workers, sort of clearing it spontaneously, because no one can tell you to do that. It's just something that's got to spontaneously occur out of your intuitive spiritual imagination. And then immediately, honestly, the next day, the flood started, and I told JC, and she was like, I just had an octopus story as well. So there's like some very strong connection between what's happening with the transmutation of these entities, because then I asked, what does the octopus represent? And they said to me, it is emotional intelligence, and it's yours, as in it's ours, as in this represents the emotional intelligence and chaos of our most like flipped upside down shadow sides. And as we spontaneously awaken as light workers and spontaneously do crazy stuff like that, and then have those visuals run through our mind and totally follow through with the process, we're like organically and naturally, without any training, changing it. You know, we're actually affecting it. We're changing them, we're transmuting them.
We keep thinking that everything is outside of us and there's an enemy, but it's us split up, you know, because we're all fractals of God, and we created this simulation. Okay, so we created the duality, so the shadow part of us is what triggers the octopus, right?
Yeah.
It's the dark parts. So if I flipped what I said around and said, okay, so this thing is attacking us and it's hooking into our duck, maybe it's doing us a service. Maybe it's pointing out to us what it is that it is our weakness, and what it is that we need to get rid of. You know, what it is that is harming us, the 5G, the radiation, all of that stuff. Maybe that's what it's here to do. There's always a good side to everything. There's always a lesson behind everything. I find it interesting, Kelly, that I forgot about the smoke. I didn't describe what I saw exactly, but I did see the whole realm. I saw this, it was like it had no form really. It was like a head and energy coming out, or tentacles, but behind it was this black smoky mist, and it was mutating into demonic faces and different like scary images and skulls and demons and things. And I noticed that as it concentrated, or the fear of that region was amping up, this would mutate. So it was holographic. It would mutate into whatever the fear was of the region below. And that's how it was fed. That was what the AI is. So if we think about that, it's an artificial intelligence in that it is programmable, and then it reacts to the programmable matter in us. And I think that graphene oxide is the interface for this thing, and for the archons or whatever you want to call them, Wetiko, whatever it is. That's how it gets into us. So maybe this is all doing us a service, the shadow side, you know, to show us what we need to transmute so that we can evolve as beings and remember who we are.
It's interesting that they said to me very clearly that it was emotional intelligence, especially when it had got down back to its pure, beautiful, original self. But when we talk about what's going on here, we're always referring to artificial intelligence. So that hijacking, that emotional intelligence of ours has been hijacked with artificial intelligence. So how does that all relate to the floods?
Well, just as a side point, I was looking up internet the other day, like just the word. It comes from intern, like as into intern a body, a dead body in a net, right? And we also call it the web, and a web is a net, right, full of dead bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's literally what it's, and it made me just think of the law, you know, that they say we're dead and lost at sea. The internet's the same thing, but it's starting to really, you know, it's becoming like they're trying to get it a part of us, aren't they? And then we've got the graphene oxide. And then I don't know if you've seen, but there's a clip out from Klaus Schwab's personal doctor or something. Have you seen that one? And he's literally saying, we are going to hack humans. There will be no free choice. There'll be no free thought. And he literally goes, we elites, us elites will rule you, and you have no, like, we're going to hack you and you'll just be our slaves.
Didn't he go,
so
like,
tell us,
we want to end the humans. It's like, it's like some fucking crazy caricature that's...
Star Wars.
And he said, we're above God. Yeah, they were saying something like that. Like, yeah.
They're not us.
No.
They're not us. They're psycho.
Do you know how I like to look at it? Because George Kavassalis calls it technical intelligence. He's a different spin on it. And I like that because it's about ownership, because even what we call artificial intelligence, it's still part of the creator, right? It's when it's split.
Yes.
And it's what you were saying, JC, about looking at the shadow self. Because another thing George says is like, why did I choose this experience? Like when you're being attacked, you go,
yeah,
okay, because it's like you're taking ownership. Like, why did I choose? Because you did, on one level, you did choose that. And it's like, to me, when it was happening to me, it was another great lesson. And then when it was happening to people around me, it was another great lesson, because I was learning to remove it from them. And that I was actually being told by their higher self, I got it, so you could remove it from me, so you can learn.
I had that experience too. Yes, I had the same experience when I had a really negative thing happen to me. Yeah, I got a message.
That ownership of going, why did I choose this?
Yes.
Why did I choose this experience?
Yes.
Then it's not, why me? Because that's what we're living in now, is this victim society, and people keep going, when's it going to change? I'm like, when collectively the victim mindset is gone. So you tell me when that's going to fucking happen. There's probably going to have to be some pretty big events. So like, that's when it'll happen.
Yeah.
I always like it when I hear teachings and from different channels, and they always say, when the time comes, you will know what to do. You will know what to do. You'll specifically know what to do. And I just feel that we know what to do, and we don't have to much think about it, because it just becomes obvious. Like you, Dale, with sort of taking responsibility for it. I'd say we're all on that wavelength. We're all on the ability to, go into energy clearings or whatever process we have with our imaginations and intuition and spirit talking. Like we are naturally doing what we came here and were called on to do. I feel like that happens with us all the time, every day. I just wanted to put that out there, because, a lot of people write to me and say like, I'm not sure what I'm meant to do. Like, how do I contribute to this? Am I doing enough? Am I in the right place? Like, I should be doing more. But to me, our very existence right now and being aware and awake is doing that. And we naturally get guided.
Can I tell you this weird synchronicity I had yesterday? It's like, this shit's just blowing my mind every day. So I bought this Mayan calendar in Chichen Itza 15 years ago. And I've been there a couple of times, and I was walking around like crazy. I was like touching the pyramid and all the rocks. I'm like, give me a sign. And this is like back, I think it was 2007, and like didn't get a sign. And then I was doing a session the other day, and it was like telling me, listen to the wind, listen to the elements. And that's what's happening. We had the floods here. We had COVID, which was air. Then we've had the floods, and I'm waiting for the earth element. And then this Mayan calendar I've had for 15 years just falls and smashes on the ground. And it breaks into 4 parts, like the 4 elements, and then Gaia is represented by 4. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? But it's like, to me, I was asking some other people. I asked a friend, someone I know, I think Rachel, JC, and she's like,
she's my good friend. Yeah,
she's gone. I think that is the breaking, because like the Mayan calendar is the cycle, the great cycle. Yeah. And it's like we're breaking the cycle of incarnations. We're not. You don't need to come back, because we learn the cycle, and you've learned the whole grand cycle, that we don't need to come back here and play this, because we've been here many times in this exact same position, and we've been duped. And
yes, we've been duped. I saw that broken.
I had to share that.
It's interesting that you
I love that.
Don't, because 2 days ago, this whole thing came out on the internet about the Japanese killing stone split in 2. 2 days ago.
It was the same day I posted this thing, and then someone sent me that, and I'm like, oh my God.
And it says Japan's killing stone splits in 2, releasing superstition and evil spirits. And has been protected all this time. So just weird that, stone reference. And also on that topic, Dale, when I got to the farm last week, I had to go through all my shit, and I found these old CDs from Ramtha, and he is referred to as Lord of the Wind. And so I was I also went, the Lord of the Wind has returned. This is about the wind. We've moved into a wind, the wind air cycle. So I noted that as well, just to cross-reference you.
Wow. Isn't it? And emotions.
What?
Is that right? Aquarius, it's an air sign, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Air is represents the mental aspect. So Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. It's the mind. So thought. Think of the waves. So Aquarius that's electricity, apparently. Yeah, that's the waves, the mind waves. Speaking of elements, I was going to bring up the topic of how water is programmable, and the fact that there is these big. So what do you all think about the fact that there is this large masses of water over these city centres? We know it's directed energy weapon, but what is it doing to that water? And what, it was really funny. I turned on the radio the other day, and I had to record, because it was like there's something it was Boy and Bear. And they were saying something in the water, and I was just like bucketing down. I'm like, oh, what does this mean? I just think, I wish we could like collectively, instead of falling into the victim mode. And I think Tom Barnett brought this up the other day in a talk that he said something about how, because he's up there, and he was just saying, you know, everyone's crying about losing their stuff, but who cares about the stuff? You know, it's just stuff. And Kelly, you're cleaning out, you know, your old farm, and I'm sure you're going, yeah, just fuck it, just chuck this stuff, you know, chuck some of these things.
Light the load.
And you were talking about, you're talking about the hardwood and how the hardwood is the only thing that survives. So what's happening is all this old shitty, you know, fantastic furniture that people have got, and these, you know, this plywood stuff, all this old chipboard stuff is being destroyed. And what's left, the only thing that can survive is this really good quality hardwood furniture, you know, and everything else, all the cheap, shitty, nasty, fast fashion, fast furniture, whatever you want to call it, technology is being destroyed. Simplify everything, you know, we're going back to that.
Yeah, it's true. Like I asked some of the old timers around me saying, when was the last flood? And they were like, oh, it's a flood of 1974 or something like that. But it was really a beautiful conversation. She said the waters, it was above all the houses. We had to go down and help everyone clean it up. And Kelly, you know, like those antique cedar wood furniture, that's the only thing that lasted, because we could wash it off, dry it out, and then oil it again. And she said, don't ever buy anything that's not antique hardwood, like, because the wood can sustain water. And again, back to the living substance, back to nature sustaining.
Back to the tree.
I always like to bring up the where, like, people forget that we're 70% water, and because of the symbiosis and compression, is the earth is as well, and the water has memory. If you look at the, you know, Moto experiments, all that stuff.
That's programmable.
Like, so it's like, and the thing is, that water there, that's the same water that was around 30,000 years ago. That water has the memory of the ancients. You know, it's all there.
Yeah, it's like when he shows, Moto shows that water, you know, the contaminated water, it's just all this goopy stuff, and then he puts intention into it, and he gets these, like, imagine if we could just get everyone putting intention into that water, because clearly at the moment, you know, it's, and they've gone out of their way to make sure there's sewage in there, and there's unfortunately, you know, dead animal stuff in there, so it's literally the goop, right? I mean, what would happen if we could get 10,000 people focusing on making it, you know, high vibrational water?
Do you remember what Bruce Lee said? Remember what Bruce Lee said about water?
Yes.
He's like, be water, my friend. Be water.
Water.
It's true.
It can fit in any container. It can crash. It can flow.
He's like, be like water.
Yeah.
So how do you guys, I mean, like, in relation to the ley lines and the energies of the water, so they've like used water now as a weapon, I guess, but from the, like, there's no loss without a gain when it comes to Ascension team, no loss without a gain when it comes to this awakening process. Like, I mean, how, like, where's the gain in this for everyone affected, and for us as a whole society and us as a whole realm? Like, where is the gain in this?
I think it's telling us to F off. And we don't need it, and that literally people are the only ones that get things done, and we need to rely on ourselves and ignore these systems. And another thing, you know, if anyone wants to support, you know, what's going on, you know, please don't give money to these big, you know, the Red Cross and all these massive societies, because they will just steal the money. Like less than 50% will get through after administration, and then they will just destroy it.
They did that to, you know,
find some actual
money.
Small, Yep, they do that to bush. They do it all the time. So find, some smaller, you know, not GoFundMe, but whatever the other ones are. And give
Ring up a local shop.
Yeah.
See what they need.
Exactly.
Yep. Right.
I was going to say,
if you don't have the jab, it just help.
I was going to say last year I did, there's a delay, Campbell, always happens. Last year I did there was one of the messages from the trees, I think a couple of them, and that was when they showed me the floods, and they said that and I saw all the widespread flooding. This was last year. I can't remember if they gave me a date, but I saw it like over Queensland and northern New South Wales, around that northeast part of New South Wales. But also overseas, I saw extensive flooding overseas. And this was around the time that China got a lot of flooding. And what was said was that the truth would be exposed, the water would expose the truth, that bodies would rise to the surface. There would be things that would be exposed. That's what the messages from the trees said, that what was underneath would be exposed, what was hidden would be exposed. So every time I equate this, yesterday I did a video and I said, we've got to think of this earth as a personification of us, right? As though it's a human body. So what's happened is we've got centuries and centuries of destruction. It's like a human being who's like just not looking after themselves. They're very toxic. They're not just physically toxic, they're emotionally toxic. They're hiding things. They're not facing their shadow self. They're not doing any of the work. And now what's coming is this massive forced detox cleansing thing, and it's exposing the stuff. So what happens when you go through a detox? It's not just a physical experience, it's an emotional experience, and it brings up stuff that you haven't looked at for a long time. And it has to, in order for it to be cleared, you can't just clear stuff without looking at it. It has to do that. That's what's happening here. The truth will prevail. But I also believe this is a real fundamental thing that everybody needs to understand. When we think about 3D, we think about it's just one dimension or one aspect. We have to understand that we're not just multidimensional in 3D, 4D, 5D and above. It is holographic in nature, this whole simulation. So there are multiple realities existing at once in 3D. So when we talk about the Earth splitting, I don't believe it's in two, it's in multiple ways. So you could literally be up there in Northern Rivers and experiencing one kind of feeling or or resonating with certain types of people, where everyone's cooperative, everything seems to be flowing and going okay. And then you could be the ones that are experiencing utter destruction, despair, and things like that. So where you place your focus, you are actually creating and steering a timeline in a particular direction. And we need to understand that we are living literally in multiple dimensions at once. And wherever you're choosing to place your focus and wherever your frequency is at, is where you're experiencing, and you're pulling that holographic experience to you. So it's really important that we can't get stuck in a narrative of this is what's happening 100% in this location. It's not the 9 o'clock news anymore. Okay, you can't do that. Yes, there's a flood that's affected all of those realities, right? But how do we then progress from here and change the direction of the future? It really depends on the frequency of the people that are involved. That's what I believe. And that's why it's really hard to predict solidly what's going to happen from here, because we're constantly creating our future and our reality. The other thing I wanted to mention is time doesn't exist. So Kelly, you were saying we're here to bring about this, the fixing of this or change. It's already happened. We wouldn't be here if we weren't winning. We would all be dead by now. We wouldn't exist. We won. Okay. But it's just, we're playing. It's like we're remembering, we're dreaming it. Yeah. We came from higher dimensions and we're dreaming this thing and we're working backwards. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Working backwards in no time.
Can I say one other aspect?
Perfect.
Because I always look at Satanism, right? Especially on that like 3D level. But like when I always go back to the core of what Satanism is, it's the removal of yourself from the creator. It's selfishness. It's actually you seeing yourself as separate from everyone and everything. So if you look at these floods and the community come together, it's a satanic and this AI force that's doing it. But what it's actually doing, and this is how the universe works in duality, is it's creating the opposite of Satanism. It's seeing everyone as connected. You're my brother, you're my sister. So this is how they can't do it. What what you're saying that it can't be achieved is because every time they do that, they bring us closer together and close, which is actually closer to the creator. So that's how I'm saying the destruction of Satanism, because that's what it truly is. It's not all ritual abuse and all that. It's separation from yourself and everyone else. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this whole 2 years, that's what it's all been about. It's all a little bit, it's waking us up, pricking us and saying, look over here, look what's been going on, wake up, do something different. And so, yeah, you can take it any way you want, right? We've all seen the people with their face nappies running around all scared and putting them on their kids and, oh my God. And I mean, the only way I can see it is they're going somewhere different to us. They're still wearing them in Perth. Like, we didn't have them at all for 2 years, right? And then just literally when all the world throws them away, our bloody idiot premier goes, no, everyone here has to wear them. And people overnight, right? They were just suddenly in their cars with them. They were walking their dogs with them. They were riding their bikes with them, slapping them on their kids, like just instantly. And that just, I mean, that shows you that there's more going on here, right? There's some kind of AI interface. I mean, I don't know if they're NPCs just to try and get us to go along with the crowd. But I think, you know, it's like you say, every time they do this, it just, to people that can see, it's just like, it shows that it's more of a scam, right?
Well,
there's no way that everyone would do that at the same time. It's not natural. There's something else going on.
And it's interesting, just as a quirky note, they look like they're wearing a rain cloud because they're like those blue masks. They just look like the rainwaters. And it's so interesting with all this water because Tartaria's whole like premise starts with the flood, and the whole society that we look at with Tartaria is all based around the use of water in its highest usage in this realm. And then we've got all of like the Q stuff from the last 2 years is always like watch the water, watch the water, watch it. It was always going to watch the water, watch the water. Yeah, and we've got like, and the prophecies from 12 years ago were like, it's all going to be about the water. It's all going to be about the water. And we look at how Cambell and I have really looked at sort of the land masses around Australia, and we've really seen these, you know, massive, what we were told were craters from meteors hitting the ground. But in actual fact, there's no Durbus around them. There's no rocks or stones or anything that references an explosion of rock. And in actual fact, they look more like aqueducts, like plug holes, like the water's coming up from underneath, the water's coming down from above, which is so exactly how we would piece together the shape of this realm. Water above us, water below us. We are water. The Phoenicians were water. The maritime law is water. I mean, the connection to water on this realm is absolutely fundamentally insane. Like, it literally is wiring and firing in every single element of our ascension and destruction at the same time, and all the deception that's happened in between.
We all have ancestral trauma from the Great Flood, what they call, you know, the Great Flood. We all know that inherently in us as human beings, it's programmed into us to be afraid of floods and to be aware of these catastrophic events. I wanted to ask, do either of you, Cambell or Kelly, know about what causes mud floods? There was mention of something about these that these sorts of storms and stuff could actually generate something like a mud flood. Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you get enough, you know, rain and water in the right areas, and you create landslides, right? And that's really what the mud flood is. It's just moving dirt from a higher position and spreading it out below and burying
so it's not a liquefaction underneath
there is a liquefaction.
I don't think so. No, that's been thrown around. But the thing with liquefaction, is that what it's called? Liquefaction? Buildings they tend to go sideways. They don't tend to go straight down.
Yeah, because it just feels like it's immersed in mud.
Yeah, so that's my sort of issue with it. But to me, I think, I mean, just what we're looking at now, right? What have we seen in the last few years with all these weapons that everyone's always, they got weapons, and now we're seeing them, right? And we're you know, Klaus will tell you we're in the Great Reset.
Yeah. Do you think there's a reset, an actual
scam?
Do you think that there's an actual, well, not a man-made reset, but I mean, it was one of the, I think that video I did, that number 222 video, where I I saw this reset happening, but it was like those of us like outside of the simulation, our higher selves are like, right, it's time for a reset. It's kind of like we're resetting the game and it's getting to this point, and then they do it, they enact this reset.
Well, I have to say, JC,
I kept getting August, so I don't know what's happening in August.
I have heard over and over again, as I interact with light workers, and I hear so many times them just telling me their like personal stories through their journeys, and they always get told at some point by some higher energetic form that they are capable of a reset. Like they always get told this at some level, that their coming together or their union or their awakening is going to create a reset. So that word is definitely within the esoteric community that I work with, independent of the great reset we hear about on the news, that it's that coming into our true nature energetic seems to follow a reset.
That thing about the solar flash, that came up in quite a few people's hypnosis sessions. That were quantum healing hypnosis sessions like Dolores Cannon used to do. Quite a number of people across the world, including my own. I had one, and it came up was this solar flash event, and it was like a reset, and it had something to do with twin flames. I think we were talking about that, Kelly, and the coming together of certain number of twin flames, because not everyone is a twin flame, by the way. But that twin flame word has been hijacked by the New Cage movement. Basically, just the male-female aspect, divine male-female aspect in equality coming together. There's not many souls who have that experience on this earth. There's only a fraction. It's not like romance and whatever. It's an energetic that is that comes together and it activates something. That's what they think is a reset. Well, that's what's come up in a lot of people's.
Yesterday about solar flash, I'd never heard this before, and this relates to Tartaria, was that I think it was in the Veda scriptures or whatever, that there was a solar flash and this created a liquefaction of the ground.
Yeah, I've heard that too, Dale.
And I've heard too about that the Great Flood. May have been many great floods, but the great one was actually the destruction of Moldek that caused the first great flood. And then you bring up twin flames, because I've also heard that Moldek was the twin flame of Earth. That was the masculine, and it was like a murdering of the man to get to the woman.
Wow. Yeah. As above, so below.
I just heard that. I've just been sort of sitting on that for a day going,
Was that George Cavassos that talked about that? I can't remember. Was that George?
Man, that's I just.
I mean, I think if you combine like the floodings, Campbell, if you combine floodings with, say, a vibration like an underground vibration, like a sound weapon, an earthquake, you would get that liquefaction of the mud. Like it would cause that sort of vibrational movement of that soft mud to form that sort of. But I take your point that it does. What we're seeing is not all these buildings on their side, though there are a few oddities there, like the leaning tower.
Yeah, there's a couple.
So potentially, it's one part of the story, and potentially we haven't quite.
Have you ever thought about like a super volcano? Because then it's come from the sky, right?
Yeah.
That's
all the ash coming down.
Makes sense to me, but
yeah.
I'll just let you know, the Vedic astrology is actually predicting that there will be. Actually, it fits in with what I felt, because I felt something between April and August, massive thing. And then I looked up the Vedic astrology, and it's saying that there is a massive event, something like a volcano, this year sometime. So I wouldn't be surprised.
To affect the whole realm. I heard that too. Yeah.
I'm on the fence with volcanoes. I don't know what they are. I mean,
mulch pits. We've seen them.
I don't trust geology.
Don't trust geology. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we just don't know. But I mean, that could also just be, volcanoes could. Did you see there was some video came out like a couple of months ago or a month ago, and it showed a volcano, and it showed these lasers being shot into it, like and then the volcano exploded.
Yeah.
So it could be the same. This could all be, weapons, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would be the same effect, wouldn't it? Blow it up and put all the stuff into the atmosphere, and because I mean that's like Pompeii, right?
Yeah. Maybe it's always been there. Maybe this weather control has always been there since time immemorial, because if you know about the Bible story of the Great Flood, originally there was no rain. There was a mist upon the earth. So think about that. There was a mist upon the earth, and then these clouds formed to create this great flood. Maybe that was cloud seeding back then. Maybe they were doing, who
that
knows?
Makes so much sense to me, JC, because if we think about it, we always refer to it as a hijacking. So we could take that premise and say that everything that exists that they are using already existed as part of the great creator design, like the weather technology, the internet, that's sort of always there. It's literally been hijacked. The technology always there. It's been hijacked. So when we think of weather manipulation, potentially that is part of the grand design. There is a deeper mechanical understanding of that, but we're currently dealing with the hijacking version of it.
Can I say something about water too? I just thought, because I was saying before, water is memory. Water holds the past, and then you go into like the pineal, right? The pineal's water, which is it's not everything, but it is access to past and future. And then if you even think of like looking glasses, reverse engineered pineal gland, it's made of water.
Yeah.
Even like, when Simba looks to find Mufasa, he looks into the water to find his dad. Same in like Harry Potter, they always look into the water.
Yes, in the Pensieve, yeah. What about crystals? Crystals are solidified water.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So that takes me into, because I always see the pineal gland as a crystal when they show it to me. It's a crystal, and everyone has a different coloured kind of crystal in their pineal gland. So if we're talking about water, then we have to talk about crystals, and then we have to talk about the crystal grids, and we have to talk about crystal cities.
Crystal cities.
Yeah. All right. Our favourite topic. Let's talk about
and you believe there's crystal cities under Uluru, is that right? So that means there must be massive amounts of water under there. I mean, who knows?
Well, we have tracked it down that there is some great inland seas in Australia that have just been annihilated and turned to red sand. The red sand indicates to us that there's been a vast, extraordinary civilization out there, because the amount of it is huge, that there was an absolute destruction of that. But energetically, there is a crystal city under there. And that's usually what started Cambell and I and our whole podcast partnership. And once we sort of introduced that imagination, that concept, my gosh, we just got flooded by, it's just thousands of people wanting to contribute their.
It was bizarre.
It was bizarre. And then that's how we connected with the Indigenous as well.
I had a lady, after I did, sorry for interrupting, Kelly, because I have to bring this up, because I wanted to bring her on, and I kept forgetting to go back and looking at her email. I had an audience member, I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her name, Deb Mundy. One of my videos, and I can't remember which one it was. Remember when I went out to the Snowy Mountains and the spirit elders came to me, and I channeled a message from him, and he was the people of that land, and she contacted me in the comments and said, my people are from there. And she said, my ancestors in the Snowy Mountains, what they would do, they were famed for their strength. And she said they would crush the crystals from under the ground, and they would consume them. They would eat them, and they would be filled with light, and they would actually be elevated in frequency. I think that's what she said. And she wanted to tell me more about that. So that tells me that they worked with the crystal cities. They knew of them. They knew of the power of the crystals. And I wonder, I mean, I don't want to step on anyone's toes here, but I wonder if the original people in many of their aerial dot paintings of waterholes are actually maps to locations of crystal cities underground that were once there. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're energy centers, because the elder spirit said that we sing into the song lines to activate the crystal cities under the ground. And that's what they're trying to interrupt with the tunnels. That's what they were trying to interrupt with the tunnels, to interfere with that beautiful energy that's coming up.
Okay.
I found that with the hijack in Bendigo, because Bendigo's quartz. It's all, the whole town's crystal.
Yeah.
And you can actually follow it. You can see in the bush where all the lines run.
Wow.
I found one of these ley lines, and like I mean, I've been in the process of making this video on Bendigo for about a year, and I've been like holding off, and then I've been warned for not doing it. I've been like threatened to not do it, and there's like some dark shit under this town, and I think it was a key hijack point because of the quartz.
Yeah,
it runs along the quartz with the song line.
Same here.
Yeah,
same in the Blue Mountains. You know, yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on.
And the whole way up and down Australia's inland communities, like they're just like wherever there is a community there, there's Tartarian structures, and there's Masonic hall for certain, there's obelisks, there's all sorts of things. And it's just like, we didn't build these towns. We didn't fucking build anything. We didn't fucking build anything. Like, it's just that we went to where they were, and they were there for a specific reason. Like, you don't just like randomly set up a freaking town in the middle of the Australian outback. Like, there's always a reason. And all around,
we were already here.
All around the inland seas that have dried up in Australia, there's all mining. And we've always thought, you know, what are they mining? Like, what actually are they mining for? So I believe that the majority of our mines, especially the ones out in the desert here in Australia, have absolutely to do with the crystal cities.
No, I've just had an idea, Campbell and Callie. I've been trying to do this video. It's going to take me forever. And I thought, mate, if I could do a presentation, I could just come on with you guys and present it. I mean, because I know how much you guys know. You'd be able to pick it apart probably better than me, yeah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, sure, man. Let's do it.
And we'll bring the psychic in. We'll bring Jay-Z in. She can oversee the whole thing from the highest possible perspective. And, like, should be awesome. But, yeah, I mean, like...
That's another thing that Kelly mentioned is none of the big cities are being flooded.
Yeah,
right?
well,
and is that because of all the tunnels?
Yeah,
that they flood them and they lose their underground, right?
That's why I think Melbourne hasn't.
Yeah, Melbourne is sea level. Why isn't that been
exactly? It's right
on the back to their all. You know, if you look at their Agenda 21 stuff too, that Melbourne's fully set up. So is Gold. They're ready to rock and roll as a smart city. They don't. You know, they don't.
Yeah, and Canberra as well. Canberra's like in a swamp, you know, just like all, you know, so why isn't that flooded? Why didn't they put the energy weapons down, whatever, the cloud setting down there? I was going to say something and I forgot now.
And also, the Northern Rivers is basically where all of the refugees from Melbourne and Sydney have flooded. If you are light working, you guys.
Yeah. I saw that mass exodus of all the Melbournians leaving and going up to Mullumbimby and all those areas. Yeah. And that was going to be the new, you know, the new paradise. So many people moved up there. I was going to ask you, out here in Blue Mountains, not far from me, there's the Hydro Majestic. That's I was going to take some photos for you to dissect of the Tartarian structure. I was just thinking, you know how like Australia supposedly was settled in 1788. What if we were already here, and then our minds got wiped in a reset? And all these huge population got wiped, and then we're like, oh, we just got here.
Yeah.
What if we were already here?
That could totally have been the case.
Mind wiped,
totally. Or maybe wiped and shrunk.
Shrunk,
We came from this prosperous previous lifetimes, and then suddenly we're in Charles Dickens land, you know.
I see that with I see it like what we're going to go in the future, because I think the Indigenous they were living their way too, along with the Tartarian society.
Agreed.
And I'm saying in the future we're going to go into some sort of utopian new world order or whatever it may be, but there will be the option.
Exactly.
So you will have high tech, or you can live with the earth, or you can mix between the two. That's how.
Yeah, and that's what Stephen Strong said, that the original people were the custodians, and they chose to reject the technology of the past. They saw that it was not good, and they chose to live.
there was the freedom to be allowed
Yes.
to live that way and be left
Yes.
in peace.
And I think that will happen. You can see that split. So that's what we talk about, the two world split. That's what it is. I see that sort of Arcadian, beautiful paradise, not everything's perfect, but, they've got that. And then there's that other world of living in the smart city, living in that, whether it's dystopian or whatever. Maybe people like that. Maybe they just all look like those people in Wall-E, they're just obese and just sitting around passively.
Oh yeah, Wall-E.
I know a lot of people that would love that.
One of the channels that I love, Magenta Pixie, she was talking a year or so ago, and she said, I'm going to paraquote her here, but she said that there would be a split in realities, but simultaneously, and people would move into the smart cities, and the smart cities would be so advanced with their like AI grid, and the ones who are choosing to live in the earth, us, they would be appearing to be completely like they've stepped back into the old earth. And that the new earth would be represented by all this really advanced technology, and they would look at us as we've gone way back in time. But in actual fact, that would be the new earth, our version of it. And they would see us sitting in frigging community halls on wooden, she said it's on wooden
Listen,
pews, on
I
wooden
don't mind living like the Amish.
Yes, similar story, right? But to the smart city grid, we would just look like backwards people.
Yeah.
But we would be representing the new earth, where it would be full of community, full of the arts, full of that, all that shit we love, all that holistic lifestyle we all naturally resonate with. So it was really interesting because the older the new earth is going to look very different.
Yes. The way I saw when I did this, I don't know what it was like a healing, and I kind of felt like I could see everything from the higher dimensions, and it was like I knew, when you know the meaning of life and you just laugh and you go, oh my God, yeah. It was like people tell you that story of near-death experiences and they realize what the meaning of life was. That's the experience I had. But I was shown that everything was correct, like both sides were correct, that both things, it was just a perspective, that it was like looking at the number 6 and 9, like one person's here seeing a number 6 and the other person seeing the number 9. That's why that would make sense to have these two worlds. People are so used to just knowing one story from the news, and that's the reality, right? They're passively receiving this narrative. And what we're seeing as this is breaking apart is that nothing's making sense, because we live in a reality with multiple realities, So, your neighbor could be right. In their world, COVID does exist. In their world, jabs do save lives. In their world, and that's what we're seeing. That's why it feels like nothing makes sense. The dots don't add up. And only if you pursue a certain narrative, you will find the answers to that particular thing, that particular bias. So it makes sense that for me, my ideal new world would be like living like the Amish without the Bible thumping, stuff. I'd like to have a bit of sex every now and then.
Community on the land.
Yes, community on the land, and all of that. And then you've got the ultra high tech world that they talk about in Tron or whatever, and that appeals to another kind of person.
And we all feel that makes us sick. Like we're all pretty consensus that being in that frequency of that city lifestyle is actually making us sick. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's turning those people into, it's melding them with technology. That's what a smart city is, right? They're trying to get humans as close to technology as they want. But everyone definitely, I was thinking the other day, with this whole split thing, and the Celestine prophecies, they say, once you hit a certain frequency, the lower people disappear, right? At the end of the book, like they're looking and the army just disappears. And of course, we have all these people lately that are dropping dead, right? People dying everywhere.
Wow. So many
famous people, right? So many. Is that just our perspective, because we're going into a different place? So from our perspective, that's the old dropping away. That's the low vibrational people leaving our reality. So in their reality, they're still alive, right? But in our reality, they're gone because they can't, be on this frequency. So is that what's happening? Is this just all a perspective that we're going somewhere, and so we see reality as one way, but the people on a lower vibration, they're seeing it as something different? And that's why, like you said, that's why we can't connect with them. You literally can't talk to these people. There's just no connection. You can walk past them within 6 feet, you don't even feel them, because
maybe it's like choose your own adventure. Yeah, it's like choose your own adventure.
Yeah, those books. Yeah.
I don't know how computers work, but maybe in a computer game there is something that is like, because obviously choose your own adventure is kind of like a very crass version of a computer game, and maybe when we choose particular things, that's why those two things can't connect, those two storylines can't connect, and that's why we're not seeing that merging. Everything, this is a computer simulation, 100%. It is. Yeah.
That's really interesting, Cambell, because are you proposing the hypothesis that we've always considered that this sort of ascension event, or whatever the word is, we would be leaving to an expanded realm? But could it be, are you suggesting that the people who are currently in the state, because I know of 4 this week who are dying and getting sick and dying as a result of all this, we're actually going through that rapture process, but in reverse? That we're the ones, that the people passing are the ones disappearing out of reality, not us? Do you get what I'm saying?
Is what I propose. Yeah. So they've chosen. They've chosen their adventure, and their adventure is, I believe, the government. The whole world's trying to kill me because they don't have things on their face. Oh my God, fear, rah rah rah. And so that's the only path they can go down. They literally, we know if we talk to them, we said, but this and this and this, they wouldn't even hear what we said. They're in a completely different reality. So they've chosen that. So is the way that, instead of the whole light, fairies and unicorns and beautiful and light, and then they just disappear, is it more that we're going into this gradually and they're falling away from our reality?
I literally
and we see that, we interpret that as they're dying, a physical death.
Yeah. I see it as like the creator expressing itself on Earth, right? So it's not even like, oh, boom, I'll wake up someday and I'm in some freaking rainbow light body, and it's not like that. It's like you can express the creator in yourself on this Earth, and we can as a race as well too. But we needed those people. Sometimes I'm like, I think they were just here for my fucking frustration, but that's co-created. It's like,
well, they made it very real to you, Dale. They gave you a realness in the game,
Yeah, but how
they're the NPCs.
I said, if we all woke up, everyone's like, why won't they wake up? I'm like, if we all woke up tomorrow, it's not really much fun, is it? You need that friction. They've got to play that.
Well, here's a mind bender for you. What if we're the NPCs for them, and they're the NPCs for us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to be
what if we're the background people for them, and they're the background people for us? And that's how it goes.
We are way more fun. We give them way more shit.
But you know what?
At least we've got a good message.
It's good to look at how they look at you, because I'm like, I was saying this to someone the other day, and he's like, they're so stupid. I'm like, actually put yourself in their position for it. Like, they're terrified. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
There's something there. They think you're a freaking lunatic. They think I'm absolutely insane.
My mum thinks I'm nuts.
But it's like, you actually need to remember, they 100% believe, they think you're insane. It's like,
they do.
Yeah.
You need
I think you're reckless.
and put yourself into their position. You're like, oh fuck, it's like, I don't know if it's pity, but it's you need to understand.
Yeah, I've often thought of what it must be like to. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, I've often thought of what it's like, must be like to wake up, like to live your life to however old, and then suddenly go and realize it's all bullshit. I've been living a lie. Like, that's kind of what a lot of people are going through now, right? And so they literally they refuse to see, but they just their reality is different. They can't see what we see. They haven't woken up, so you know, are they there to teach us a bit of empathy, right? You know, this is the thing. Like, I think everything's a lesson, right? There's growth in everything.
So either way, Campbell, either way, we're all disappearing from each other's reality, aren't we? Like, they're going to disappear from ours because we're literally leaving the environment. And it's weird to say they. That just feels so fucking weird. But just for the sake of this conversation, they are disappearing by dying. I mean, we're all pretty, like, we're expecting that reality. It's actually happening around my life. People are definitely passing way more than they should be. And we, to them, are disappearing into the hills, like into our crazy communities, disappearing into our conspiracy theories.
Crazy people. I mean, we don't know. In their reality, we might all be in the camps already, locked up. You know.
Yeah, true. Do you think that in this multi-dimensional version of 3D, for example, do you think that there is like two different types of Australia simultaneously exist? Do the maps still exist the way they exist? Do the countries still, or is there new countries? Would there be a Tartaria there? Would there be another land there? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, as we gradually raise in frequency or change frequency to collectively come together and resonate with each other and create a different version of reality, is it still, are we going to wake up from a reset and then there's a new map, or does that make sense?
During the Mandela effect, the maps changed.
I think, I think so. There could be thousands of realities in this physical space that we're enclosed in, just all on different frequencies.
Yes,
and it's like you were talking, were we here in Australia beforehand, and did we get, mind wiped or something? It's just changing our perspective of what we believe. Right. If we don't have a reference point for something, we can't see it and we can't interact with it, right? It doesn't exist. So literally, have we been taught, that, and are we the suckers that fell for it, right? That when we're just waking up, that all this free energy doesn't exist, all this stuff doesn't exist, and so now we can't see it. But some people may not have believed it, and they might be still walking around in Tartaria. And so when we raise our vibration, well, it kind of, all the buildings will just start to run again, right? They'll start to work again, because we'll get into that frequency where it's still running. Because I fully believe it could still be there, just like literally just out there, and it's fully functioning. It's going, all the people are there. We just can't interact with it because we're just, it's like the Dr. Emoto and the cymatics. Unless you're on the right frequency, you don't, you can't see it.
It's very dramatic. It's like, I always remember going back to David Eichdale, like I always remember one of the first things that blew my mind when I was reading his Global Conspiracy of Everything book, Bible, it was so fucking fat, was the story, which I'm sure you guys all know, about the hypnotist and how he pulled up her father and daughter onto stage and had a pocket watch and put it behind her back, hypnotized the father and said, your daughter's not here. And she's right in front of her, him laughing. Yeah, and he couldn't see her, smell her, sense her in any way, hear her, but could read through her body to read the inscription on the pocket watch. And I just was like, this is like 20 years ago, and I was like, wow, like, what are we if, like, just by quirking an idea in someone's brain, you can completely erase a human being, someone that you love with all your heart, a daughter, from reality. Like, so fucking hell, like, if we talk about Tartaria existing or not, or how high impact and potent a shift of that frequency band is, like, it's seriously dramatic. It's like it's dramatic as the radio, which is a great little young, cute metaphor for it. You can be on Johnny Cash, or you can blip and you're on fucking Britney Spears, like that. And the difference is so fucking big, and it's like, I don't put anything past the power of a tweak in a frequency band.
You know the movie They Live, right? It ends at the end is when they take down what's projecting the frequency. But it's symbolic, but it's also literal in that sense. But think of how they've tweaked, and I think they've done this actually through our biology. I think they've done this. They've tweaked us. Our biology is tweaked to interact with this reality. and they've done certain things to our biology, and that's why they're trying to change the human being now too, because I told you the frequency is changing. They have to turn us into transhuman for us to stay on that frequency, because we're rebirthing with the planet.
Yeah.
But that I always tell people, Kelly, that one, 'cause that's brilliant. And he actually got it. It was from David Talbot's Holographic Universe.
Yeah.
And that book blew my mind. That's when I realized everything was a hologram. But then I was trapped in. It's all a hologram. It doesn't mean shit. But then,
same. I
I'm
went
like, no, but now
It's not true. Yeah.
I understand the hologram is actually talking about interdimensionality. That's what it is.
Yes.
It's because you exist because every part of the hologram is a smaller part of the whole. So it all exists.
Malleable. Yeah. And that's malleable.
Contains the
And it
whole
doesn't
sort of
mean
thing.
everyone always thinks we're getting duped. We're being duped. It's not. We're not being duped. It's just
No.
simulation.
Well, if you believe you are, then you are.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about, Alex Jones, right? Gruff old man, and how he's suddenly, a lot of these, newly awoke people are, Alex Jones, he's right about everything. But I was thinking, if you talk to these people, ask them to explain, what an interview he did 3 weeks ago was about, and they can't, right? All the information they don't get. But if you ask, what's he about? What's his catchphrase? Prison Planet, right?
Yeah.
And that's all they have to do. He just sits there and he can say whatever he wants because no one's taking it in. But what's going in is what's behind him on the screen, everybody's show, and every time you hear him, you're a prisoner. You live on a prison planet. That's the message they want through. And this is what people don't, but how's he? He's telling, it's an old 80-20 rule, and it always works. They can tell you the truth, but unless you take it in, it doesn't matter. And this is what people don't get.
I thought you were going to say
Sorry.
turning the frogs gay. That's what I think of when I hear Alex Jones.
The what?
The one.
Oh, there's like that.
The gay frog.
They're turning the frogs gay. And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Alex
man,
Jones
that
freaked me
song.
out when I first heard him. He was like, that was way back when he was doing
Yeah.
the Endgame. That documentary was my first Alex Jones one with the skeleton all in green. I was like, wow, Prison Planet. Fuck.
First one I saw was Bohemian Grove. Yeah. The first one I saw was the Bohemian Grove thing. I think that was 2007 or something. I can't remember.
my mum
2005.
used to call him gravel guts. I used to sit there.
Gravel, yeah, I know.
Turn that
Yeah,
gravel guts on.
There's a kid's book called Gruffalo. That's what I always think about with Alex Jones. So it's interesting going back to the conversation about they've had to alter our biology in order to maintain this perception and stick us onto this one channel that we're on with fucking Britney Spears, no less. So we've got this. So if we look at like the concept with observing our current reality and the content with water, I would say that manipulation with our biology has almost everything to do with water. Almost 100% it's to do with water. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about how does electromagnetic frequency work with water? How does that? Because that's also part of our body and what we like the energetic that works through us as well, and all of that is supposedly being manipulated. So,
And frequency, right? All the cathedrals and chapels and the bells and the choirs and the organs, right? Good name.
Well, if we think
the
about
frequency we get, crap.
Sorry, I keep your audio so low. I can't hear when you're talking and when you're not. I'm so sorry.
Oh, really? Oh.
And your chair's disappearing. It looks like a giant shoulder and then it disappears.
He's flipping in and out of his Tartaria body.
Issues here, I know, right?
Oh, there you go.
Maybe
That's
you
better.
set.
That's better. I can hear you now. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, turn to
I mean,
I was gonna-
experiment. Oh, sorry, Josie, finish it.
I was going to say.
everybody talk at once. Talk.
Probably could. Everyone would probably get it,
I know, we have complaints. I was going to say, if we just keep thinking, everyone keeps thinking like we're separate from what's around us. If you think, just keep bringing it back to a computer simulation. Just think about World of Warcraft, right? Everyone's seen either someone play it or they've played it themselves, right? So everything within that game is made of the same thing. it's made up of zeros and ones, right? And so are we. So if everything's made up of the same thing, then everything is programmable. Everything is malleable and changeable, and however the computer programmer reacts with it, or however everything within the game reacts with it, it activates a certain sequence of events or changes things. That's how we have to keep seeing it. So it's not a mystery. It's not like something's being done to us. That's part of the simulation. The part of the simulation is that we are programmable, that we are malleable, that we are changeable, that we are, and the hack is that our thoughts create our reality, and that we within the game have the control to be able to shift the things around us, because we're part of the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We're the controllers. It's not happening to us. We are able to change it. That's why I keep saying, it's getting boring now, but I keep saying over and over and over and over and over again to everyone, stop with the intel. You already know the world is shit now and fucked. Just how do you unfuck it, right? So you've got the power to change that within you. You have to go within. Otherwise, you're going to go nuts, because what you're doing by observing the outside is you're observing one reality that's collapsed, the thought wave or whatever that has collapsed into that particular narrative, right? And that allows that to maintain its hold. So instead of seeing the floodwaters as, oh, it's this devastating thing we're seeing on the news, or it's this devastating thing from this person's perspective or that perspective, we need to change that within ourselves by working on ourselves. So we hack ourselves and then shift our reality, and then it manifests and affects everyone else. Everything's connected. So that's what I'm trying to say. Everything's connected.
Biohack. The Starseed Biohack, JC.
Starseed Biohack, I love that.
Get in there and do it yourself. Change your frequency band, hack your own system, hack your own biology, change it.
The ecosystem you live in is pretty small, right? You only live in your house and your town, and everyone's like losing their shit over Ukraine and what's happening in America. It's like, that's all on the screen. You actually have no impact on that. I mean, you do, but not in the sense of yelling at the screen, because it's already a reality that's already been manifested. And that's what I always tell people, if you want to change anything, have a look at your own relationships in your own life before yelling at the government. It's like, because all of that, it's always a macrocosm of little internal things that are happening within your own life anyway. And if you don't want to sort them out, it's like, even like the victimhood within your own life. It's like, how much of that are you still playing out? And that's part of the hologram too, because if you shift that projects itself out.
This is why I'm so big on nonsense and imagination. Sorry, Cambell, go. Speak, my friend.
Oh, shut up.
I was going to say, jeez, I forgot what I was going to say. You speak. Hold my thought. You go.
I'm holding space for you, brother. Just gather your thought.
I've lost. I forgot what I was going to say. You speak.
It's the never-ending story. The never-ending story? He ends up with one grain of sand, and he said, this is all the realities. You can, whatever you want it to be.
I mean, like, because we can't forget, like we've got so much self-responsibility to undergo, and so much detoxing, and it's like this is never-ending like ride with that stuff in our lives, especially now. But like, don't, audience, forget to use your fucking imagination. Like, that is you being that is the biohack. That's it, man. It's like, you can imagine yourself in and out of anything. You can imagine yourself solving everything just in a moment of imagination, like, don't get trapped in this reality, as in this is reality. Like, what I know when I do these random work, and then random entities turn up, and there's octopuses and fucking flying, whatever goes going on in my mind, like, I know that is fundamentally happening. I understand that is not because we've been tricked to think our imagination is just us making shit up, and it's just all cute and whatever, the cute, the little imagination friend, like, but it's not true. Like, I know for certain the high impact my imagination has on changing this realm for everyone. I know it. It's an undeniable fact. To me, that is the creative spirit running through me when I simply am making things up that I'm not attached to, and then they become lofty. And when they're lofty, we have no imaginal baggage with them. So when you make shit up and it's lofty, you not have any emotional baggage, shit happens in reality. Like, it's actually our emotional baggage that prevents it from manifestation. So connecting our imagination with, because what is the mandate of the human being? To make known the unknown. To make known the unknown, which is the only way you're able to do that is you have to make shit up you've never thought about before. It's the only way we can access the unknown. So I understand we all enjoy the juice of the intel. I do. I can't help it. It's like watching the best movie ever. Like, the only movie I want to watch is the intel passing through my channels. But truly, like, that is still a reality that has been presented to us. And, you know, like, if we've got that information, cool. But fucking hell, man, our imaginations, key to the biohack.
Oh, great. And we don't need to know how to get it done, you know, just need to know what we want, where we want to go, and just start, right? Just start.
Yeah.
But if we create from system, if we're creating from our past thoughts or from things that we see or from, you know, reality, that's all we can create is more of the same. So it's a losing game, right? And that's why this whole intel thing is such a big thing at the moment. If that's all the information you're getting, you know, oh my God, the world's bad, this is happening, Ukraine, rah, 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 well, all you can create is more of that, right? More crap. So we've got to really,
that's the parameters.
And I think that's what's being shown. Disconnect from the system, stand on your own 2 feet, create your own world. Look, floods everywhere. The government ain't going to help you, so start creating something better. I think that's exactly where we are. Oh.
And we call ourselves truth seekers.
Switch screens.
Sorry, I got cut off. Yeah, I just got cut off.
We call ourselves truth seekers, but like, we're truly just seeking our own truth. It's just the truth of us. Like, that is the ultimate truth seeking, right? And that's where the intel does let you down, because you're putting that truth on some special insider or some special knowledge or information to try to precede it so you understand what's going on and you can be safe and sound. But the real truth seeking is yourself. And like, I have shitloads of that to do. I have so much more of that I could be doing. I can be a very grumpy old man.
We'll get there. That's what we need to, we need to destroy the system, right? We don't get, it doesn't give us space to do this. It doesn't give us space to be ourselves. It's all get a job, just comply. Look at all this obligation you must comply with. Oh, get a job. You need to pay for your house. Oh my God, stress.
Oh.
But obviously none of us want that. We've had enough of that. It's time to create something.
So
better.
what that's doing is it's creating certain parameters to create a particular reality. That's what control does. And think about your own relationships. You know, when you have if you've ever had a controlling partner, they're afraid of you expanding and being or choosing things that are outside of what they're comfortable with. So they try to control you to keep you in this, so that you're creating the same idea that they want or the outcome that they want. And what I get from audience members a lot is, so let's take it back to the floods in Australia. They'll say, how do they rebuild from here? How do they so what people are so conditioned to believe is that nothing will ever, how do we fix this thing? There's so much to be undone. This is where the despair comes in. There's a lot of people that have despairing thoughts because they don't know how it's going to get done. Okay, whatever it is, undoing the tunnel systems underground, undoing the child trafficking, people thinking in a linear fashion of how do we undo this thing, and that's not the bottom line. It's like losing weight. Like you've just got to have faith that you're going to get there, and you just take it one step at a time, right? You know the general direction of where you're going, and but we've got to remove those parameters, is what you're trying to say, Cambell. I think it's like it, and what taking back to what you say, Kelly, about the imagination and the, what do you call it? The ridiculous? No, not absurd. Nonsense.
Stacey, ready? It is the nature of nonsense.
Nature of nonsense. The nature of nonsense allows you to have no parameters, no obligation to anyone, as expansive as you want to be, and resonating at a frequency or a feeling of where you want to go and believing that it's going to happen. And that's what they're what the opposite, I won't say they, because we keep talking about this enemy. It's just duality, right? The duality is creating.
Does say us.
Yeah. The duality is creating the lack of hope. So it's creating despair and a singular outcome that is not what we want. And so the opposite of that would be to be expansive and to have as much hope as possible and to believe that we are, we can create the world that we want and resolve the things that aren't good, that aren't working. That's how I see it. So just keep chipping away at that.
Keep moving your
10 kilos you want to lose.
That's what I've been here at the farm. It's like I've been so overwhelmed with how much to do that I'm just like, Kelly, just keep moving your feet forward and everything will work out. Just like
every time you send me a video, Kelly, I'm just like, whoa, I can't believe you got through all of that today.
But I mean, it's just a metaphor for everyone's overwhelming realities right now, and it's just like, if you can't see through it, just keep your feet moving forward. Like, it's just, you will eventually like land again or find your way. And I know with all the victims, and like, again, a dumb word, but like all the people experiencing certain realities right now, and it feels so big and overwhelming. Just like, just get up and just keep moving forward. And like, shit will change and shit will happen. Like, it's just it's my little life hack after,
keep remembering we chose this.
Yes, we absolutely did. Yeah.
We
chose the rule book though, man. Well, they never gave me the rule book. Jeez, makes it
That's
hard.
what I said about ownership before. Do you know how I saw that with the floods again too? Because I've done a lot of work with satanic ritual abuse survivors and stuff too, and a lot of it's about like programming of the body and the brain, and they need perpetual trauma to keep the compartments away, and that's what they've done to the planet, because the planet's is a version of us. It's the mother, the compression of us, or we're the compression of it. So that's continual traumatization of the planet, and that's why they've put all these tunnels underground on the big energetic spots, because they have to, because what it's going to do is we're going to remember the part, we're going to remember who we are, we're going to remember what this planet is. So they've had to continually re-traumatize the planet. And that's what I'm like with the floods too, that's where I can see like if there is some sort of energetic thing to that, to clearing out. It's like, because then what happens like with a ritual abuse survivor is the brain starts to remember, and then the brain starts to connect new neural nodes for it to remember the memories of the past. And it's a bit like us too. If we stop destroying and traumatizing the planet, then the neural pathways in the planet or the song lines will start to come back. Do you know what I'm saying?
Definitely. Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
but saw like a big cleansing of that area too, because I think a lot of people will leave that area and a lot of people will come in.
Yeah.
Well, that area, interestingly, because I've been speaking to my friends, and
there's a lot of dark there too. There's a lot of great people. There's a lot of dark there.
There is, and Lismore is actually known to the Indigenous as where two rivers meet. It's a place of mourning, of grief. They would come down to where Lismore is when someone died, and they would grieve, and then they would leave, and that's the meeting of the two rivers. So, to my brothers and sisters in that realm, like this has not been any surprise, and this has been very much anticipated that these waters would, because it is the mourning area. And that was really interesting. I mean, like, we are in a state of an outpouring of grief. Like, we've never stopped. It's been ongoing now for several years. Like, the floods are the end result of the last couple of years. Makes sense, and China was so flooded out last year as well. Like, we saw so much going on all over, actually, the world. Floods were everywhere, all over the world. So it's definitely made it's definitely a metaphor for emotion and grief and sadness and purification and detoxification, because I'm a big water faster. You too, Jay-Z, like we use
Hey.
water to detox and to fast, you know. So big detox is going on the planet. But audience, man, there's this, my partner always says, there is no loss without a gain. Like that, there is no loss without a gain.
I wanted to quickly talk about just really quickly, because I'm Lebanese, so, and I was born in Beirut, and you know, I've got a lot of family there, and Lebanon and where it is on the planet is a very sacred place, and so that's been hit non-stop for decades and decades and decades, with war, with you know, bombing. Recently, you know, in 2020, they hit Beirut. My sister lost an apartment there, you know. So they what I wanted to say is that just like what happened in the Northern Rivers, where the government was nowhere to be seen, the same thing happened in Beirut, and it happens all the time. And they have been hit by disaster after disaster after disaster, and trauma on top of trauma, and the people constantly have to band together because no insurance, there's no one to be seen. You know, she had her tenant in the apartment that she owned was a surgeon. He's out there with a wound trying to do surgery with no electricity on people in the street, and you know, in the hospital that had been bombed as well. And everybody was helping each other and cleaning up, people with broken arms, you know, brushing up glass and stuff like that. And this is what's happened. And what happened around that time when the bomb blast happened, a few days later, so everyone took to the streets to protest the government, because every time money was coming in as aid, the government would steal it. Okay, so every time a country would offer aid or food or supplies or whatever, the government would steal it, the corrupt government would steal it. And so people took to the streets until the government was taken down. And I think the whole operation was there to show, basically, I mean, the government was already, you know, under the control of supposedly white hats. But, you know, the thing is, the reality is this has been shown time and time again, that every time you try to knock people down, they come together and they will uprise, you know, the good will come from all of that. That's what I wanted to.
We really don't know hard times in Australia too, when you consider in places like Beirut in the Middle East. So it's like, you know, people don't know what having your back against the wall is like. We really don't know.
They don't. And imagine generations of that, and, you know, being born in that, and the trauma, and the people are still amazing and the most educated people in the world, you know, so more, you know, university degrees per capita than anywhere else. You know, they keep going, and they haven't destroyed the country. It is beautiful and it keeps rising. And that's why we call, you know, we're the Phoenicians. We are the phoenix that rises again. But that part of the world is a very strategic place, because we see Gaia as like a body, and then there's chakra points, you know, there's sacred points, there's sacred parts of the world, and that's what they do. They do it on purpose. They know and they target those areas. And they do say, you know, and then there's a lot of people that say there's tunnels underground and that's why they bombed that area. But still, people got killed, and just, you know, innocent people got killed. Yeah.
You know, I've got my final work meeting before I'm terminated in a couple of weeks. I've done pretty well, but I'm going in with they, them pronouns just to fuck with them. And I'm thinking about wearing a dress too.
Oh God.
I just want to see their reaction. I think it'll be a good way
Are
to
you going to do it live, Dale? Well, guys, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of conversation here on this topic. I mean, at the end of the day, we're in a mind-bending experience that is full of every paradox, oxymoron, contrast, every single clever use of a twist of reality you can imagine. and we're consciously able to sit here and watch it play out and participate and experience our own inner truth through the journey. So, I mean, would we change any of it, really? Like, we came down for this moment in time. Would any of us change it? It seems to be happening in its very natural state, I would say. Like, we're definitely finding our feet amongst all of this, and everyone is finding their emotional feet amongst all of this. And like, I know everyone I know participating on this way are getting better and bigger and stronger and more sovereign and more certain and more knowing and just shining brighter and brighter and brighter. And no matter what hits their realm, they're getting bigger and brighter and nothing's stopping it. And I tell you what, man, like, if we've made it this far with all the fucking poison that is thrown on us during this time on planet, like, there is not one thing that we touch, smell, or taste in this reality that is not poisonous currently. And hey, we're still here, we're still glowing. So if all their poison can't work, and all their programming can't work, and all of their disasters and news and blah, 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 like, it's only going up and up and up and up and up for us, really, isn't it? So I'm excited. I can't wait to see how many, like, masters turn up with fucking Gandalf pipes and cloaks soon enough into my reality. I'm excited. I can't wait for the first fashion designer to rise in this time and give us finally our outfits, because none of this shit today on this planet is worthy of these great souls. We have such better fashion out of this realm. I'm excited. The creativity is going to be really rock and roll soon, guys.
Yeah. I love it.
So to wrap up the podcast, does anyone want to have any last words to our audience? Say anything brilliant and inspiring for the world right now?
Oh.
I'm pretty good. I think I was going to leave it, Callie. I think you
In a piece.
you nailed it. Yeah, I think that what the last bit you said though, creativity, that's what it's about. We've got to remember that we are creative beings. That's what we're here to do, and we're going to express that in what everyone in their own individual way.
Yeah. I mean, that's just so consistent with everything I ever hear. I mean, at the end of the day, creativity is going to flourish like it's never flourished before. And we are going to see amazing new recipes, new food, new flowers, new fashion, new art, new literature, new films, thank God, new music. Oh my God, the music that's coming to planet Earth. I can't wait to hear the symphonies that are giving birth right now. The instruments, the frequencies, the tones, the new colors, guys. Oh my gosh. Come on, we're going to see so much more of everything. And I can't wait to participate in our life moving forward. So I hope that everyone out there can feel the energy of the excitement and the anticipation of this new amazing creativity hitting our realm and bursting through, like the amazing ideas I have of llamacorns eating rainbows and pooing out new exotic flowers that end up putting all these new exotic scents into the realm, and the flowers and the permanent rainbows and the llamacorns and the smells, they just blow your fucking mind. And like, we are on the brink of that moment right now. So everyone, like, this truly is the best time to be alive right now. So thank you, our beautiful guests. So fun to catch up with you both. And Campbell, how you going, buddy, down there in Perth? Because I'm just like, the delay for a second. I want you to end the podcast. You're on mute. That's ironic.
Ah, there you go. Am I on mute now? Is that better? God. See, I've been speaking this whole time and I was saying some really good stuff. I was just on mute.
I know.
I agree.
Like, very excited with everything you were saying.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, I think this is the thing, right? They spend all their time and energy trying to tell us that we're nothing and we're low and we can't create and all this stuff, and they poison us. So clearly, that's all we've got to focus on, right? Being creators, creating. We're creations and we are creators, and that's literally all they do is try and get us to believe that we're not. So it's not that big a deal, really, is it? Let's just start creating. Like, we don't want them. We don't want what they've created. It's pathetic. That their bloody creation is just retarded. You know, we could do better than that, you know, half drunk, right? So let's just get out and create something better. You know, believe, get it done. We don't have to know where we're going, but just get started. That's it.
Started. Yeah, just get started. So everyone, love you all and love you all. And thank you for joining us on this very fun podcast for Tartaria Australia. We will see you next week with God knows what. We will create something completely made up for next week. So stay tuned. It's going to be our most completely insane show ever. All right, everyone, you have a great day and we love you and we will see you soon.
Ciao.
Love you all. Stay awesome.